Good morning, folks. I'm Dave Canterbury with Self-Reliance Outfitters in the Pathfinder School. Back with another video in our series on Materia Medica, and today we're going to discuss the black walnut. Now this is an up-close look at the leaf structure on the tree itself and two of the black walnuts that are coming out from this branch. Okay, the black walnut tree has three main chemical compounds: tannin, juglone, and organic iodine. Juglone is a poison. It's emitted from the tree to help it grow and keep other trees from growing very prolifically around the black walnut. Tannin is a high astringent, so it's going to squeeze things together or close things and bind things. We've talked about lots of plants that had astringent value, but there's lots and lots of tannin in the black walnut, and it's probably an astringent in the 3rd degree if you go back to our discussion on degrees that these plants affect your body. The iodine value of this tree gives it a natural antiseptic, a natural antibacterial, and it's also a natural antifungal. It has lots and lots of great properties within this tree. It can be used as a wash if you just take the leaves themselves and steep them in hot water. So you're making an infusion. You heat the water up, you add the leaves, you pull it off the fire, and you let it steep. You can use that extracted tannin in that wash over your skin if you've been affected with poison ivy, or if you think you've brushed up against poison ivy. And we will talk about jewelweed, which is the common cure for poison ivy, which really isn't a cure at all. It only masks the symptoms of poison ivy because it has natural anti-inflammatories and antihistamines, which means it stops the itch and stops the swelling. So it's not really a cure for poison ivy. Now, the tannin value of the black walnut will constrict the pores in your skin, and that's going to do two things for you. A, if you've gotten poison ivy on your skin but the oils haven't penetrated your skin yet, it's going to constrict those pores and not allow that oil to penetrate your skin. If the oil has penetrated your skin and you're already starting to have a reaction, a wash with the tannin or the liquid infusion from the black walnut leaves will help constrict those pores and squeeze that oil to the surface to help you get over the poison ivy faster. It's not going to cure it, it's just going to help take it away faster. And that's what's important. There's really no cure for poison ivy. All you have to do is either wait till those oils come up to the surface or dissipate within your skin. There's really nothing that counteracts that urushiol oil or dissolves that urushiol oil within the poison ivy. So enough about poison ivy. So now we know that the leaves can be used, and you can just pull them off the tree and rub them on your skin in a drop dead emergency if you had to. But the best way to do that is to take those leaves, put them in water as an infusion, heat that water up, and use that water as a wash to rinse your skin off. Again, if you have a cut or a scrape or something like that, you can do the same thing because that tannin will help with wound closure, and it's also got some antiseptic value to it within the black walnut, because all of these chemical compounds are present in different degrees in different parts of the tree. And that's important to understand too, because although trees are a 4-season resource, it doesn't mean that this black walnut is a 4-season resource. And it may be the best source of part of that tree, which it is. It's the best source of iodine or organic iodine within that tree. But there's organic iodine all within this tree to a lesser degree. So you may not be able to get the exact thing that you want from that tree in all 4 seasons, but you'll be able to get what you need in a little bit lesser value or a little bit lesser strength throughout that tree. And the tannins are going to be best extracted from green leaves. Now let's talk about the iodine for a minute. The iodine is best extracted from the green hulls. And if you've ever messed with black walnuts and you've cut them open or you've crushed them up with rocks and bricks to eat the black walnuts, anything that touches your skin turns brown. That's the iodine. It's used to dye things like traps. You can use it to dye fabric because it is a natural brown dye, reddish brown color dye. But that's the iodine value in that plant that's doing that. So that iodine value that you're looking for a natural healant or a natural aid to the healing of a cut or something like that is going to come best from the hull. And you can just bruise the hulls, cut them up, and use them like that, and it will turn your skin almost instantly brown within just a couple minutes after you've rubbed it onto your skin. All right, so this is a black walnut. It's not quite ripe enough to fall off the tree yet, but we can definitely slice it open on this outer skin. and open it up. And when we do that, that's going to reveal that iodine. And if I just wipe this on my fingers right now and get the liquid on my fingers, it's not going to take very long before my fingers start to turn a greenish brown color. So you can see now it's only been a couple of minutes since I did that, and it's already turning like a yellowish brown color. And that's the iodine, the organic iodine within the hull of this nut. You can see it on my knife turning colors as well, and it'll put a natural patina on your blade, especially if you've got carbon steel. It may not work as well on stainless, but it works really good on carbon steel. If you're trying to put a forced natural patina on your blade, you can just wipe it down with that walnut hull like that and just let it sit on there. Just put it back in the sheath and let it sit, and it'll turn that blade almost black overnight. But on the fly, you have medicine right off the tree. You don't necessarily have to start a fire and make any kind of a decoction or boil anything down to get those iodine properties from that nut. Now, the other portion of this black walnut that we want to pay attention to is the bark. And the bark is some of the best medicine for certain things. And we need to understand that there's going to be tannins in the bark, there's going to be iodines in the bark, but not to the same strength or value that we talked about with the leaves and the nut hulls themselves for those two compounds. But if we're looking for something for diarrhea, we're looking for something to bind us from the inside, we take this bark and we make a decoction from that bark. And a decoction means that you basically boil those constituents. You're not taking them, setting them aside, heating up the water, adding them, pulling it off the fire and letting it steep. You're actually boiling those ingredients to extract the properties from that bark. And generally what I'll do is I'll start with, a half a container of water, add my material in, boil it down halfway, add water again, boil it down halfway, and then I consider that a decoction. A decoction of this drank in doesn't have to be giant amounts because it's going to be very astringent in your mouth. But if you drink 3-4 ounces of this, it will help drastically with diarrhea because, again, the astringent value to the inside will help bind things up and close things in where you're in a very wet state and a very hot state. This will bring you to a more tense state and more of a cold state when it comes to the black walnut. And you'll understand those things that we talked about, tissue states and degrees. If you go back to our first and second videos in this series, you'll understand that better. Okay, so just to kind of reiterate on the black walnut so that we have a good concise thing at the end of the video here. The three main things or main uses that are good with the black walnut are A, wound care from the extraction of the iodine, the tannin values for both wound care and for poison ivy, and then a decoction of the bark, which is also an astringent that you take internally for diarrhea. Those are the three best uses in an emergency that you can use this plant on the fly with very little processing. All right, folks, well, I'm Dave Canterbury with Self-Reliance Outfitters in the Pathfinder School. I appreciate you joining me for this segment in our Materia Medica on the black walnut. I thank you for your views. I thank you for your support. I thank you for everything you do for our school, for our family, and for our business, for all of our sponsors, instructors, affiliates, and friends, and I'll be back with another video as soon as I can. Thanks, guys.